The first police officer killed in the line of duty in Henrico County was John Haynes Yarbrough. John was born August 20th, 1861 in Hanover County. His father was in the Civil War and died Christmas Eve of 1861, and John really never knew his father. He was raised by his mother, Ann Yarbrough, and was educated in Hanover County schools. And as a teenager, he became a dairy farmer in Hanover County. He met Lily Edwards, who was born in Hanover County, August 12 of 1866. And when they met, he was the dairy farmer as a teenager. And shortly after they met, they were married. Shortly after that marriage, they had 2 children. And while Lily was expecting her 3rd child, John Yarbrough had become a truck farmer, where he was hauling produce to the 17th Street Market in downtown Richmond area, present day, and was selling produce there by horse and wagon. He saw an advertisement for Henrico County police officer. He became interested in this and he applied. He was selected and sworn in by Circuit Court Judge Wickham for Henrico County on September the 11th, 1894. He was sworn in to be a uniformed police officer, mounted and on patrol in the area of Chestnut Hill. Chestnut Hill is present day City of Richmond, North Side, Highland Park area, but at the time this was in Henrico County. He was to earn $45 a month in doing this patrol on horseback. During his short time as a police officer, he noted that in June of 1895, there had been a series of larcenies of brass journal bearings from idle boxcars parked along the area of the Chesapeake and Ohio locomotive works at the bottom of Chestnut Hill, which is off the area Magnolia and Mechanicsville Pike, that vicinity. 10 nights in a row, these journal bearings had been taken from these boxcars. So he got with Henrico County Police Officer Patterson and a Chesapeake and Ohio Special Agent W.O. Whitlock, and they came up with a plan of action for John Yarbrough to have everyone be in plain clothes and to meet on the evening of the 3rd of July and descend down Chestnut Hill into the rail yard near the locomotive works and do a surveillance separated and spread out in distances from each other to cover that area in the hours of darkness to see if an 11th night would bear some revelation of a larceny in progress. At that point, at 9 o'clock on the 3rd of July, 1895, Officer Patterson and Officer Yarbrough, by horse and buggy, parked at the top and tied the horse off of Chestnut Hill and walked down Chestnut Hill and met W.O. Whitlock, the special agent from the C&O Railroad. Whitlock had brought a brakeman with him for extra eyes and ears who was unarmed. And all 4 of them spaced themselves out in the rail yard. At 9:30 p.m., John Yarbrough observed a figure appeared to be a male subject moving up onto a boxcar and immediately started prying on the journal bearings, trying to take those from that boxcar. John Yarbrough then approached by emerging from his position on foot, identified himself as a police officer, had a nightstick in his hand, and advised the subject that he was under arrest for the larceny that was in progress. The suspect turned, was armed, and fired one shot. That shot entered the left abdomen of John Yarbrough, traveled through some internal organs and lodged in the small of his back. Even though he was mortally wounded, he struck the suspect in the head with his nightstick, dropped the nightstick, and drew a weapon that he had, a revolver. The suspect was not incapacitated by the strike to the head and fled on foot. At that time, Yarbrough gave foot chase, although wounded in the manner he was, and began firing on the suspect as they ran parallel to the railroad tracks, westbound. As they ran, W.O. Whitlock, special agent from C&O, emerged from his position upon hearing the gunshot and the ensuing gunshots from Yarbrough in the foot chase, and joined Yarbrough in the foot chase of the suspect, who then started to leave the area of the railroad tracks and run to his left into some thick brush and up Chestnut Hill. John Yarbrough slackened up during the foot pursuit, and Special Agent Whitlock was side by side with him at that moment, and Yarbrough turned to him and told him, "I've been shot," and then he collapsed. At that time, Special Agent Whitlock stopped the foot chase and stayed with Yarbrough. The suspect fled the area. The brakeman from C&O Railroad came up to the position of Yarbrough and Whitlock, and Officer Patterson, who was further down the tracks, had encountered two suspects that he had been involved in a foot pursuit, and shots had been fired. But no one was struck, he was uninjured, and he joined Whitlock, the brakeman, and the position that Yarbrough was collapsed in. Whitlock and Patterson and the brakeman carried John Yarbrough up Chestnut Hill to the buggy that they had tied at the top of the hill, and they raced to Yarbrough's home there in Chestnut Hill where he resided. And two doctors were summoned to the home, and he was immediately transported by wagon to the Virginia Hospital, present day VCU MCV Medical Complex. At that point, he was in critical condition. He immediately went into surgery. During the morning of the 4th of July, a priest had been summoned to the hospital. John Yarbrough's mother, his wife, 3 children now. His last child, that 3rd child, was born 90 days prior to this incident in April of 1895. So the 3-month-old and his 2 other children and John Yarbrough's brother were gathered around his hospital bed as last rites were given to him. And later on that morning, he was conscious. He was sitting up in his hospital bed and declared that he was hungry. At that point, during the 4th of July, he began to advise exactly what had occurred leading up to his shooting, and then all the actions after that as he remembered them. The account I gave you is from John Yarbrough himself, of how he interacted with the suspect, what he saw, what he did. There was one subject that was arrested on the 5th of July. That subject was the leader of a gang in the city of Richmond that were known as brass box thieves, and he already had an outstanding court paper on him in reference to a bond surety that he had violated. And at that point, when they picked him up, he was questioned, The circumstances of Yarbrough's shooting were never charged on that individual, but that individual was sentenced to 6 months for the surety bond violation. On July the 6th, during the morning of July the 6th, the bullet shifted and moved from the small of the back and jeopardized the life of John Yarbrough. He was immediately rushed to surgery, where he died in surgery. There was a reward that was announced by the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for $100 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of person or persons that had shot Henrico Police Officer John Haynes Yarbrough. And we certainly honor the life, the service, and the ultimate sacrifice that John Haynes Yarbrough gave to this community and to Henrico County, and we will always remember that service.